Farms.
Mayor of Sholan Farms. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Cronin's Corner. I'm joined today by a very special guest, Joanne DiNardo from Sholan Farms. And so welcome, Joanne. It's great to have you here in studio.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Senator
And this is
Cronin.
not your first time. I mean, you're all over TV, right? You've done the Barbara Foster and Barbara and you.
Yeah, and I've been with the mayor of Leominster and a lot of on the interview type stuff.
Great. Well,
I never turned down a good interview.
We're so grateful to have you here today to get the word out and just talk about your great work. Do you want to just introduce yourself, kind of
Sure.
talk about your background in Leominster? And
Sure. So I am a native of Leominster and lived there most of my life. And when I went to Leominster schools, and then I graduated from Oakmont Regional.
Yeah.
And then went on to I went on to work for the telephone company right away, and went to the Ma Bell for 37 years.
When there was one telephone company.
Right? Yeah, there was AT&T, there was New England Telephone, there was Bell, there was Bell Atlantic, we've been everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I worked my way up through that organization, and actually was working for the vice president before I resigned, or retired, I should say. And that whole 37 years, I did for anything from the accounting aspect, engineering, finance, construction. I was boots on the ground, climbing poles. I was doing it all.
Absolutely.
And had a blast. And I probably wouldn't have retired when I did, but I did have encounter with breast cancer twice, and I'm a 2-time survivor. So that gives me a little bit of
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Remarkable.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm so excited when I look back. And so at the same time, I ended up getting involved with the American Cancer Society and volunteer. I've always been volunteering. My whole family, my parents always volunteered and gave back to the community.
Service
so it was
is part of the DNA. Right?
Embedded, you have to give back. You cannot live for yourself, and your life will be so much more enriched when you do that. So I first started volunteering with a food bank, and then from that I started up the Relay for Life in Gardner. I was one of the original co-chairs of that. We did the very first one, and then I was there for like 7 years, and then went to the air one. We started that one up.
Gotcha.
So that was pretty cool. But around the same time, in 2000, when we were trying to save Sholan Farms, 2019, I said, I can't do all of this. I can't do the food pantry. I can't do Relay for Life. I'm just going to have to do Sholan Farms. I have to pick what I want to do. Well, it was very important to me that we save Sholan Farms, because it was the last working orchard in the birthplace of Johnny Appleseed.
Right.
So how can we not save this farm? To me, it was a no-brainer.
And to me, Sholan Farms is the crown jewel of Leominster.
It
is so beautiful.
I like to believe it is. It was a diamond in the rough when we took it over 20 years ago, and I believe now it is. Everybody takes pride. They say, oh, we have Sholan Farms. Right. Everybody takes pride in it, whether they volunteered or donate or help out or whatever. I think everybody just takes pride in it.
I remember last summer, at this point a year ago, I was in the throes of a campaign, and we were also in the height of the pandemic too. So, when you're a candidate, you need to spend 6 or 8 hours a day on the phone, just calling people and asking for support, or what's the news. And I couldn't do it after a day or two. I couldn't do it in my bedroom or at the kitchen table. So I would drive to Sholan Farms. I'd park the car and I'd sit in my truck, and I would do all my call time or political calls there at Sholan, and that was the best office in the world.
For sure,
because you got that view and you can't beat it. But so now you're the president of Sholan Farms. For people who maybe haven't been there, where is it and what is Sholan Farms now?
Okay, Sholan Farms is 3 miles out of the center of Leominster. It's on the most beautiful hillside overlooking, you can actually see Boston if you stand up high.
If your eyes
look
are
off
good.
to the east.
Yeah.
you can see the Hudson, you can see the Shrewsbury. It's 167 acres. The farm is actually, we saved it from development. The city paid $4.5 million with donations from private donors as well as agricultural preservation restriction, conservation restriction. So it's kind of like a hybrid model. It's not just an apple orchard, it's also a destination where people can go for hiking. It connects to the hiking system in Leominster. I don't know if you're aware of that, but we have 30 miles of hiking trails that are well maintained and well groomed by the Leominster Trail Stewards and the Recreation Department. And so we're the trail terminus for the south end of that trail system. So people are there every single day, hiking, especially during COVID. I mean, it was packed. People could find a way to get out and go hiking.
And what I love is there's something there for everybody too, right?
There is.
Can you just talk about what all the offerings that are there at the footprint?
So when you arrive there, one of the things I recently was at another orchard. I've been to every orchard in Massachusetts, actually. And our orchard is so different because ours is the orchard with no barriers. And I say that because even if you're in a wheelchair, you can go for a ride. It's smooth, it's flat, you're not on a hillside,
right.
It's perched on top of a hill, and we take pride in that. That's the orchard with no barriers. We'd like to have more handicapped trails, but still I think it's flat enough that most people can get around, which is really exciting. So people can come and spend the day, they can go hiking. We are starting right now with the raspberries and the blueberries. And so
when are those in season?
They're right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Get them
They're
while
just
they're
coming
hot.
in.
Yeah.
We've got them
off
right
the
here.
vine. Yeah. So all right. So
we got some
show
fresh
me what we got right
raspberries.
here.
Right here, we've got the raspberries. Got to be eaten soon. Put them in a smoothie, and the blueberries are just coming in now. So
You get 48 hours with the raspberries.
yeah, about
That's what you're
that.
saying.
You want to keep them in the refrigerator, or put them in the freezer. Lay them out and freeze them
Gotcha.
if you're not going to use them right away, because they can spoil bad fast because it's been so moist. It's been a tough growing season for us. But I'm really excited about this. The crop is huge.
Yep.
So we opened up last week, and the first customer that came with his own big bowl and picked 7 pounds. But he was funny because he said, I thought there'd be a line of people the way you guys have been talking this up.
Right.
And I said, well, it's first
got a
come,
lot of
first
space,
serve.
right?
First
Yeah.
come, first serve, it's like, okay. And he was lucky he got 7 pounds.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had any sun, so they're not ripening up. I know several farms haven't even opened their blueberries yet because they're coming in so slow.
It's a pretty good yield.
But it's amazing. So back to the Sholan Farms footprint. It's during the season we do have a farm stand. That's a big volunteer effort. It's run by volunteers. And then we have school tours. We're trying to get that school tour team up and running. And then hiking, people can go on their self-guided hikes, which is great. I mean, there's the city of Leominster and the Leominster Trail Stewards have put in markers throughout the trail system so you can't get lost.
Yep.
And it's so beautiful.
So can you talk a little bit just about who owns the farm and how you sustain operations?
Okay, so the farm initially was bought by the city, and then immediately we had looked at other footprints, such as Brooksby Farm in Peabody, and we decided that we wanted to put up a separate organization, rather than being part of the DPW or the rec department. We figured that we needed a separate organization, and that way we would draw in volunteers, and they would take a hands-on approach to keep the farm moving. So we formed the Friends.
Right?
It's a village, yes. So we have the Friends of Sholan Farms, which is a membership organization. We've about 200 dues-paying members, and they actually get either a quarter peck or a half peck or whatever. They get benefits.
Yep.
And then the big part of our operation is the volunteers. If you volunteer 10 hours, then you get your apples for half price. And you get to go out and pick and eat, and we don't weigh you when you go in, and we don't weigh you when you come out. So we're a little different than other orchards.
But right now, this is a call to action, right? I mean, you need
it's a big
volunteers
call
and
to
people to
action.
step up.
We've got a lot of ambitious plans for the next couple of years that we need help with. We need help both fundraising. If you're not able to do the volunteering, we are putting in a huge new section of orchard. It's going to cost us probably $50,000. So we're trying to scrape that money together. We're trying to write for grants and raise money. We're also trying to put the water tower back up, which was the icon for Sholan Farms.
Right.
And we also need potable water. We're also going to be asking for money to try and get an equipment building, because right now we don't have an operations building. So there's a lot of needs.
You got to call your state senator or something. Yeah,
We
you
need some-
got to get a legislator on that.
Yeah, right, Senator Cronin. We definitely knew who to bend on that one, or who to get us on our side. And we're so excited that you have taken an interest. we have a master plan where we also want to expand from the farm stand that we have today, which we're busting out, and that was put together real fast when we had the barn fire in 2001.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up putting up a little small building just to house our sales, and then we put up a small building to house the tractors in the wintertime. But we don't even have a heated place in the wintertime for maintaining our equipment. And for our orchard manager, he's has to sometimes work out of his house. So we think that we're big enough and that we've proven ourselves, and we are running so that we are covering all costs. We raise enough money, and then
It's a sustainable model after
very
20
sustainable.
years. Right.
After
Yeah.
20 years, we're still in business. And we know other people that didn't stay in business.
And I loved my visit. I was there a couple weeks ago, and I loved walking around the farm. And a part of the discussion that we had was for growth, for the operations center, for storage. All that stuff really relies on sewer and water, right? And you need those utilities. And I don't care if it's industry or small business or residential or Sholan Farms. You need to have that done. So
You
I know
need the facilities.
and you need just to lay out the infrastructure. So I'm very hopeful we can get money that was in the 2018 environmental bond bill or through the federal funds that are coming for exactly that purpose. And I think that's a part of the future of Sholan Farms too, and I hope sets you guys up for growth.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and I'm working for it. But you talked a little bit about just the history of the site, and people have been growing apples there for hundreds of years. Leominster's claim to fame is Johnny Appleseed. Can you take us kind of far back, pre-2000,
Sure.
when the Friends of Sholan Farm took over?
Right. So the farm itself is over 200, almost 300 years old. And it started out as a dairy farm, like all of the dairy farms started out. But then when pasteurization came in, a lot of them decided to go into orchards. That's what the natural what they changed to. And so they started out with growing beans. They put in the apples. It takes about 8 years to get those big old trees going. We have new trees and more modern techniques today that we work with UMass on. But yes, so that farm, when we took it over, had quite a history to it. And actually, Johnny Appleseed's uncle lived there. So we like to think that he might have stepped on those premises
Right.
at some point when he was a little child.
What was his name, Johnny Appleseed's uncle?
Washburn.
Rick Appleseed or something?
Yeah, right. Whitney, Washburn. There were Whitneys and the Washburns. There were so many of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so that was kind of exciting news. We have all of this history is collected and it's on our website. So we've done a lot of research when it comes to that.
And that's a great resource for everything Sholan Farms.
Some
right?
of the oldest trees on the property are over 150 years old. So they go that far back. They're the old standard trees, McCowan trees, and the fruit on those trees, we kept 80 of them, is so different than...
Is it?
It is different than the semi-dwarf. Something happened when they started changing...
But the same tree, right? Just
same
an older
apple, but for some reason, those old trees just have really delicious McCowans. Or McCowan, depending where you're from.
tree. Tomato, right? The old debate. I hear you.
That's right. So then we formed the Friends of Sholan Farms, and our first operation, our first day, the first year, we were open like 2 days a week on the side of the road on a picnic table. I'll never forget it. And
Humble beginnings.
very humble beginnings.
Yep.
Because that was around. It was crazy, and we worked out of the barn. And then in 2003, somebody torched the barn, and all the stuff we had raised and earned, and we had wagons and picking stuff, and all the stuff that we bought in the first 2 years was all burned in the fire. So we literally had to come out of the ashes and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So Chief Sholan was there to help us rise up.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? It must have...
So the name Sholan, just so you know, they named it, at one point it was Leominster Orchards, but then it got changed to Chief Sholan because Chief Sholan was of the Nashaway Indian tribe and was one of the first Indians to befriend the white settlers, and part of the Lancaster deed, Leominster was part of that. So we didn't, when we took it over, it was named Sholan Farms, but I think it's admirable that it is named after Chief Sholan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that connection is there as well.
And you talk about just the challenges that were brought by the fire in 2003, but right now we are coming out of the pandemic. During the pandemic, you alluded to it. Sholan was such an incredible resource for people to go outside. Can you talk about just what was hard for you up on?
I sure will.
Yeah.
It was hard for every farmer, and all of us were just like the deer in the headlight. Oh, now how are we going to operate? And so the first day that we opened for You Pick raspberries and blueberries was in July. And, people had been locked up for,
right.
And it was just, it's like stunning. And so we opened up and I said, I don't know how this is going to work. So the state came out with all of their guidelines, single-use containers, don't bother weighing, nobody can bring their containers, you gotta wear masks, all those things that went on. But for me, that opening day was such a glorious happening. When I saw whole families, fathers, mothers, children, or next week it was the father with the kids, it was like, what is this? We've never seen this. We've never seen the parents get involved like that. I mean, we'll always see the mother with the kids dragging along, but never the whole family.
Yeah.
It was absolutely heartwarming. I mean, I got tears just thinking about it. And I told my team that. I said, team, we're going to survive because people understand how important locally grown produce is now. We introduced the entire community to locally grown produce. A lot of people came up there and said they had never been there before and they lived in Leominster. And that's the truth. So we reached out to the whole community and at large, not just Leominster. I mean, we had people from Westminster, Ashburnham, Princeton, Holden, all around that had no place to go to.
Yeah.
It was like they got wind of it, and we used Facebook a lot. They got wind that they could go to a place and go for a hike. It was like 6 months into, when I think it was in September, I had a young couple came in with their masks on and they were like, didn't want to touch anything. And they were like just moving around like this. And they were in the farm stand and they just looked and they were like, wow. And I goes, well, welcome to Sholan Farms. And I give them the usual spiel and you can go for a hike. And I showed them the map and let's go for a hike and all these things that you can do here at Sholan Farms. And they said, no, they didn't want to touch anything that I had touched. It was crazy. They kept wiping their hands. And then they finally said to me, we've not left our apartment in Boston for 6 months. This is our first outing.
Talk about cabin fever. Huh? Yeah, it's like sensory overload.
We'll be back to go hiking. I said, no, you can go hiking today.
Right? Oh, it's funny.
You don't have to have a reservation at our farm. A lot of the farms you do have to have a reservation, and I understand that. So they're bigger than us, much bigger than us. We like to keep ours as a user-friendly, old-fashioned experience. Walk and wander through the orchard, go for a hike.
But people can farm there too, right?
Yes.
People, can you talk a little bit about that program? Because it's when you talk about it is the people's farm. I think that's a great, that's very representative.
Yeah. So we had a student from UMass that wanted to start a nutrition program, and so that's how it all got started. Probably 18 years ago.
Yeah.
And so she made the proposal, and then we decided let's do the community gardens. So at first it was free. Then we realized we were paying, we needed to do all the prep and keep the soils healthy and all that good stuff. So now we have 40, or maybe actually 50 community gardeners who pay for their plot, and they grow it pretty much almost anything they want to grow in their plots. So there's 50 of them, and then we have 5 acres that the Hmong communities use as well, and they pay a fee. So they all pay fees to the farm to help us, defray the cost of maintaining the fields. And they get the water for free and fertilization and all that stuff. So that's really, really exciting.
I love that. And every time you drive by, there's people out there in their gardens. It's a really great program. So we've talked a little bit about the history. We've talked about the offerings right now. But in your mind, where would you like to see Sholan Farms and the Friends of Sholan Farms take it over the next 20 years?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Our visions are huge.
Yep.
Our wish list is huge. Trying to getting the community to take it over. I'm not going to be there forever. My board is getting aging, so we're looking for young people to get involved and take it to the next step, because people have a lot of great ideas, And no ideas are bad. Let's explore it. But come, bring your ideas, get involved, take a leadership role. We have a hard time getting people to take on board positions or head up a committee. Right now we need trail work. We need, we partner with the Leominster Trail Stewards, but they have their trails to maintain. And we need trail committees right here at Sholan Farms. We need people to get involved if they want to do that kind of stuff. And then the school tours is another thing that's huge. This winter when I had the pruning exercises on Saturdays. That's my fun thing to do. So I went to the high school and I said, Mary Fay Fields, do you have any high school kids that are interested in getting their service time in? And
I love this. You've told me this story. I'm ready for the punchline already.
Oh, there's a couple of punchlines there. So I had, through the course of the winter, I had a lot of high school teenagers, they were all women, show up, and they showed up regularly. I had one guy who showed up for 3 hours, and that was it. He never came back. And I goes, what's going on here? But then there was one girl, I was trying to explain to her what Sholan Farms was all about, and this was a one-on-one situation. And I said to her, can you tell me who owns Sholan Farms? She says, the city. I said, no, the people do.
Yeah.
And I says, oh my goodness, how old are you? You weren't even born when we saved the farm.
Right.
Right? I said, I bet your parents probably were they first picked here. Or you picked your first apple here.
Definitely.
Isn't that cool?
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
I mean, that's your legacy too, right? It's gonna be there longer than all of us.
Well, I say shame on any society that doesn't teach sustainability and how to protect the earth and how to nurture the earth, because any society that gets away from their agrarian roots are gonna fail. You have to be able to coexist with nature.
Absolutely.
And so for me, that's one of the important messages here, is how to teach people sustainability and how to teach people how important the earth is and how important farmers are.
Right.
Go up and hug your farmers, because your farmers are maintaining so much open space, and it's good for the...
And doing God's work.
Once that farm is gone, it's 160, there's always going to be 170 houses.
Right.
So that's why we had to save it. We had to have the open space. To me, it was like a no-brainer. A lot of people in the city wanted it to be housing. Well, housing is more infrastructure and more people and less space for the outdoors.
Right.
So that's why I'm excited about that. But one of the programs that we need some real help with, and I'm looking for retired teachers, anybody that loves kids, is we put through over 2,000 kids during the season. They come in for a school tour, and they'll get the story of apples growing.
Yeah.
They'll get to go pick their first apples. They get to go for a wagon ride. It is absolutely so exciting to hear all those kids giggling and teeing and out there and picking their own apples, and they're bigger than their heads.
Right? Yeah.
So that's an exciting program, and we're trying to revitalize it, because
coming out of the pandemic with COVID.
Yeah, coming out of the pandemic, it's like we got to get our team up and running again.
And we've got a lot to look forward to too. I know that the Traveling Apple Museum is visiting September 4th.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so we got to talk about the Traveling Apple Museum.
Yeah, coming up this year, first of its kind, the New England Apple Association, which we're a part of, has recognized that we can't compete with Washington State when it comes to apples, because they have thousands, like 10,000 acres. We've got a mere 24 acres of apples at our farm, and most farms around 40 acres, 60 acres, maybe 100. Tugas has over 100.
It's agritourism.
Agritourism
right?
is what it's all about.
Yeah.
What it's all about. But they're trying to showcase New England apples, which people will tell you we ship them all over. We have people that
they taste better when you make them in New England.
They taste better. If you
right?
get in a grocery store and you try one of those and then you try one of ours, you're going to say, what happened? Well, it's been produced, put in storage, shipped across the country.
200-year-old tree.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Ours is a 200-year-old tree, yeah. Well, we have a lot of younger trees too.
Right.
So
Right.
we have 37 varieties. So, but the Traveling Museum is the first of its kind, so this is going to be moving from farm to farm in the years to come, but they got a grant to see if people are interested in seeing how apples are grown and seeing what New England apples is all about, and showcasing what we do in New England and what our varieties are, like the Roxbury Russet.
Yep.
Those kind of apples that people don't even know about, or the Baldwins. They don't grow all over the place. You got New England has specialty apples.
So that's going to be a great attraction.
It's going to be huge, and so that we'll have food trucks and The museum, of course, we're going to have art in the art orchard. We'll have artists up there painting. We'll have the cider guys up there, so
Great.
they'll be pressing cider. They'll be serving cider. So that I'm very excited about that. So that's going to be Labor Day weekend, and it's going to start on Saturday. If it rains on Saturday, then it would be on Sunday. Rain? Who said rain?
I don't think it can rain anymore. Yeah, I think this is the
can't
first time
tell
I've
you.
seen the sun in a month. So let's hope it continues.
And then we have festivals. We celebrate the Honey Crisp. We celebrate the McCowan. We have the Columbus Day weekend is huge for us. That's our Harvest Festival weekend. But there's something happening every weekend, every
Yep.
day. We're open 7 days a week, beginning August 21st. We'll be open 7 days a week from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So
Today, on the blueberries and raspberry picking, is only 3 days a week.
Gotcha.
Because we have to let them ripen in between.
So, I mean, for the past 20 years, you have been such a champion and advocate and leader at Sholan Farms. Why do you love it, and why is Sholan Farms special to you?
Well, I got deep roots when it goes to growing apples. My grandfather and great-grandfather, I was thinking of this last night, they had an apple orchard the same size as Sholan Farms
kidding.
in Leominster. I grew up on that farm.
Yeah.
And around the 60s, they couldn't make it. They had a dairy farm and then put the apple orchard in, but they just weren't able to keep it going. So that turned into a housing development. And I was 12 at the time, and it was like, oh, I wish I could save it. And I used to dream of how I could save the orchard and why I didn't save it and why isn't it still there. And I used to have a brook running through it, and it had all those, oh my goodness. Today it's a nursing home. It's on West Street in Leominster.
So
and
20 years ago, you saw your opportunity to make sure this is not going to happen
Make
again.
amends. Plus, I have been living on May Street, which I call that Sholan Farms Annex, because it's on a trail.
Yep.
And the trail goes to the backside of Sholan Farms, where I used to go help myself to apples. So I always felt guilty.
And then paid for them right
oh,
after,
yeah.
right?
No, it wasn't
Yeah.
you pick.
Yeah.
I used to have to. I
So
always
you're
felt
making
guilty.
amends on that.
I had
on
to
that
make
front
amends
too.
for that. And I
Gotcha,
used to
gotcha.
steal a peach once in a while, and yeah, and I used to hike up there, and I loved Sholan Farms because I've been living in the neighborhood for over 40 years now. So I always felt like I had to help save the farm, and personal reasons, couldn't save my grandfather's farm.
Right.
You know, and I just think it's so important that people have places to go, and that we never forget where our roots are.
Great. Well, I'm just so grateful for all your work, and I'm really so excited for the farm. I think you've poised it through the pandemic to just have its best year yet. I'm excited to get there September 4th for the Traveling Apple Museum. And just thanks for all you do for the community, and thanks for making yourself available today.
Thank you, Senator Cronin. Thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for becoming the senator, and thank you for your interest in Sholan Farms. It's really, really exciting to meet you, and thank you for taking the interest.
This is
And
fun.
I got stuff for you.
And I'm going to eat some raspberries, right?
Yeah, you got raspberries, blueberries, and Sholan Farms honey. We just harvested 50 pounds out of our hives at Sholan Farms, and that's what this is. Fresh harvest this week.
So everybody get up to Sholan Farms.
Yeah, this is another story here, if you got a minute.
Oh, we got a minute.
This is one of our big fundraisers. We have this apple crisp mix that our ladies make. We have ladies that get together. We have this, we should have patented the recipe, but you can't patent recipes, but it is absolutely the best
Dynamite?
apple crisp.
What are the best apples to use?
You can use peaches, apples. We've got 37 varieties. Whatever apple is in season is good for making apple crisp. You want to mix, I usually put 3 different varieties in.
Yep.
So if it was a Cortland, I'd add a Mac for a little more snap, and then I'd add something else that might be there. I use any apple that's in season is good.
Is the good one?
Yeah, you just don't want it, if you use just Macintosh, some people just believe in Macs, it turns into apple sauce.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a lot of meat to it. You know?
Right? So you heard it from Joanne. Go up to Sholan Farms, get the apple crisp mix, and enjoy.
Pick some fruit,
Pick some fruit.
get some honey.
Get some honey. That's it.
Okay.
Now I think we're going to roll the credits. Yeah. But thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
We did it?